Would you state your name?
Jonathan Yearwood.
What is your address?
2H Chimney Road, Chateau Margaux, on the east coast of Demerara.
And what job do you do?
I am a customer service manager.
Are you familiar with the name of the political party, A New and United Guyana?
Yes, I am.
And what is the short form of, how do you normally refer to that party?
ANUG.
Are you a member of that party?
At the moment, no.
Okay. Now, Mr. Yearwood, you gave a statement in this matter. Did you?
Yes, I did.
And did you sign and initial it?
Yes, I did.
And if you see that statement again, will you be able to identify it?
Yes, I will.
I'm now going to ask that this statement be shown to you. Will you have a look at that document? And if you are able to, hold up the page with your signature so the commissioners can see, please.
Yes, I've signed each and every page.
Okay, your signature.
Yes,
Is
this
it
is
on
my
the last
signature.
page?
Yes, that's my signature on the last
And
page.
hold that up so the commissioners may see, please. Thank you. Commissioners, I'm respectfully asking that this be admitted as CE3.
CE.
3.
You don't want COI?
Oh, I beg your pardon. I keep talking about court exhibit. Yes, JY. JY1. Yes.
Yes.
And I do have 3 copies for the commissioners, if I may pass these up. In March of 2020, were you a member of ANUG?
I was.
And did you hold any other position in that party?
At the time, I was the treasurer of the political party, and for the general elections, I was also the what is called the representative of the list.
Did ANUG contest the general elections in March of 2020?
We did.
And did you contest in all regions?
No, not in all. We contested in the minimum required amounts.
On the 2nd of March 2020, which was Elections Day, did you play any particular role in relation to ANUG?
I was assigned as a counting agent for Region 5, which was in the Fort Wellington area. So I was stationed there after the end of the voting.
Do you recall the 4th of March 2020?
I do.
At about 6:30 that afternoon, did you go anywhere?
Yes, I went to the Ashman's building to relieve the ANUG's counting agent at that point.
Can you recall the address of Ashman's building?
It's at the corner of High and Hatfield Streets, Georgetown.
And what was happening at Ashman's building on that day?
Ashman's building had been assigned as the office for the returning officer for Region 4.
When you arrived at the building, where did you go?
I went into what was called the tabulation or the verification room, where all the other party agents were.
What time was this?
Pardon?
What time did you go there?
At 6:30 approximately p.m.
Yeah.
When you went to that building, were you an accredited party agent for ANUG?
I was.
And having got to the tabulation room, can you tell us what, if anything, occurred?
When I got there, one of the only available seats available was there, so I sat in it. I just happened to be between the two big major political parties, the PPP to my left and the APNU AFC to my right.
I see. So you were sort of in the hot seat.
Which was good.
Now, did you see party agents from any other parties there?
Yes, there were party agents from a lot of the smaller and newer parties as well, TNM, LJP, OVP, CG Change Guyana, URP. They were all there as well too.
And what about GCOM staff? Did you see any GCOM staff in the tabulation room at that time?
Shortly after I arrived, they had started, the ladies came in to start the verification process.
Did you know the names of any of the GCOM staff who came in?
One was Bob Cummings. And
Do
I
you
can't remember.
recall the first name?
No,
Okay.
at this point, no. And I can't recall the name of the second person, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But I know they introduced themselves.
No problem. Now, you speak about the verification process. What is that?
Well, GCOM staff were supposed to use the SOPs to call out the votes assigned to each political party.
And let's get some things clarified. When you say GCOM, what are you referring to?
GCOM staff, the returning officer for GCOM.
What does GCOM stand for?
Guyana Elections Commission.
And you said that they were supposed to be calling numbers from the SOPs. What do you mean by that?
The SOPs are what at the end of an election, these are the tabulated votes done at each polling station. A copy is sent to the returning officer for that area. The party agents and counting agents for the political parties all gather at one location, and these numbers are then called out statement of poll by statement of poll.
Right, so
to be verified.
SOP
SOPs.
means statement of
poll,
polls.
yes.
So when you sat down in the building, what took place after the GCOM employees entered?
Well, they started to do they started to go through their process, which was to call out the numbers on the statements of poll in chronological order. And we started at 4001.
And what were party agents doing as these numbers were called out by GCOM staff?
We were verifying that the numbers that they had called out were actually the correct numbers that we had recorded in our own systems.
Yes.
Mr. Yearwood, I'm not sure that I follow you when you say you were to call out the numbers in chronological order. Could you explain that?
Okay, they took statement of poll 4001. Then they call out all the numbers in alphabetical order according to political party.
The statements of poll themselves were sequentially numbered?
Yes. And then they moved from 4001 to 4002. then to 4,003.
So they were calling out the statements, from what you've told us, they were calling out the statements of polls in numerical order.
Yes.
Now, at about 10 past 9 that night, did anything occur?
The two ladies, one of which was pregnant and very visibly pregnant, they said that they were tired and they were hungry. They had been there all day. So they asked if they could stop the process and have something to eat, which everybody in the room at that point agreed to that.
And which official stopped the process? Was it the deputy returning officer?
Yes, it was.
Can you recall at this time when the process was stopped, how many statements of polls had been verified?
I think we had done 33 at the time.
Sure. And did
In addition to the two counting ladies, as I would describe them, there was also a deputy returning officer present in the room?
No, one of the ladies was the deputy returning officer.
Okay, thank you.
And was this person Mrs. Bab Cummings, who you referred to earlier?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, at about 9:30 that night, what, if anything, occurred?
The two ladies came back into the room and they restarted the process.
Now, when you say the two ladies, you mean the two same
The two GCOM staff,
members? Yes.
Yes.
And how long did that process go on for?
Not very long. I think we did another 3 or 4 SOPs before they said that they were so tired that they could no longer continue and they will shut off for the night until tomorrow, the following morning.
And what was your reaction to that?
Everyone in the room got very vocal, very annoyed. I had been told that the CEO, the Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Lowenfield, had informed the members in the room earlier during the day that the process would be continuous throughout the night until complete. Now we were being told that it's going to be shut off at 9 o'clock in the evening, 9:30 in the evening.
And the process you are talking about is the same verification process that you
Yes.
referred to earlier?
Yes, the same process.
I'd like to take you back to the 30 or 33 statements of poll
Sure.
that the two ladies worked on prior to this abrupt termination. In that process of announcing the numbers on the statements of poll, were those announcements in keeping with the document from which you were double checking?
Yes, there were.
So there were no hiccups?
There were no hiccups at that point.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Yearwood,
Yes, sir.
the decision to stop until the following morning at 9 a.m. Whose decision was that?
That was a decision conveyed to us by the deputy RO at the time.
The deputy?
RO, the returning officer, deputy returning officer.
Who would have been?
She would have been Bob Cummings, I think. Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
sure.
Yes.
May I ask a request? I'm a
Certainly.
warm-blooded creature. Can that AC be turned up a little bit
Certainly.
rather than down?
Certainly, no problem. And if it starts to get a little too cold,
Well,
similarly,
we'll-
you may
yeah.
indicate.
That's fine. 24 will be fine.
You said you were a warm-blooded preacher.
Yes, I am.
Council, may I ask a question?
Certainly.
Mr. Yearwood, you said that your understanding was that the chief elections officer had earlier in the day directed or stated that the counting must be continuous through the night.
Yes, sir.
But you did not hear that yourself? That
No,
was
sir.
reported to you?
No, sir. I had only arrived at 6:30 p.m. in the evening.
Now, you told us you had received this and you had been told this about the CEO. Can you recall who told you that, who gave you that information?
That information came from multiple party agents at the time because they had been there all day. So at least 4 or 5 of them, I can't remember exactly who, but they were all upset about the decision being made.
So you had got to the point where you said there were objections about the shutting down of the process. What happened at that point?
There were very loud objections to it, and the 2 ladies just left the room, basically, and we were left on our own at that point in time.
Now, you said you were sitting between party agents for PPPC, that's the People Progressive
Party.
Party
Civic.
stroke Civic,
Yes, it was.
and ANUG AFC, is that a partnership for national unity? There's so many acronyms, you have to forgive me. Stroke
Alliance for Change.
Alliance for Change, yes.
Yes.
These long acronyms confuse me. So you were sitting between the 2 major political parties.
Yes, I was.
So what was the PPPC party agents doing when the announcement was made?
They got very vocal about it too.
And what about the APNU stroke AFC party agents? What did they do, if anything?
Their party agents packed up their belongings and actually left the building. Well, they left the room.
Sure. And after that, did you see the CEO?
Well, there was so much confusion going on at that point that the chief elections officer, Mr. Lowingfield, eventually came into the room himself.
When he came into the room, what occurred?
He says that he asked us to be calm, to quiet down, and he says that he will try to find 2 more GCOM staff members to continue the verification process.
Well, when he said GCOM staff members, did he refer to the positions that they would have to hold?
No, he didn't. I don't recall that, no.
Okay. Are you familiar with the term deputy returning officers?
I am.
Did can you recall whether Mr. Lowenfield referred to the term deputy returning officers?
Yes, he would have, yes.
Okay.
Because some of the election agents actually suggested that if he couldn't find any, some of the party agents knew deputy returning officers who would be willing to come in to continue the process. And they volunteered to find those people.
Did he accept that offer?
He says no. He would find the people.
Now, at that time, were you familiar with the name Mr. Basil Williams?
Yes, Mr. Basil Williams was the incumbent Attorney General at the time, and I had known him for many years before.
Sure. And on that evening, did you see him at all?
Yes, he arrived somewhere around 10 and came into the verification room for a while.
Well, when you say verification room, is this the same room you refer to as a tabulation room?
Yes, it is.
Now, after the staff members left and the CEO spoke to you all, what did you and the other party agents do?
We just lingered around within the same room and on the ground floor of the Ashman's building at the time, while we were waiting for Mr. Lowenfield to arrive back with his two staff members to continue the verification.
Tell me, Mr. Yearwood, what is the value eventually that Mr. Bassel Williams came into the tabulation group? He's a party representative. Is there anything significant about that?
I mentioned it because he was the Attorney General at the time, and I thought it very important that the leading legal officer in Guyana turned up for the verification room, into the verification room at that point in time.
But I'm sure you said that he was there when you arrived at 6:30. You sat between him and some other person.
But he,
No, Commissioner, what he said is he sat between the two major parties.
Yeah, but the parties had representatives, and I got the impression. No, you didn't say that.
no, but I thought it strange that an APNU representative had actually returned back into the verification room.
I'm still troubled, but anyway, we'll let it go.
No, I'm in trouble with that. When you see you from the street
When the two counting ladies, verification ladies, left the room, and the APNU AFC counting agents packed up and left, there were no other APNU AFC representatives within the room until Mr. Bassel Williams arrived back. So I thought at that time that it was noteworthy that an APNU representative had returned back into the room. And it was a person of no less a stature than Mr. Bassel Williams, the Attorney General.
Perhaps I could ask you this. You said you sat between the representatives of the two major parties. Amongst the APNU AFC group, were there any former government ministers?
Yes, Valda Lawrence was there. Nicola Trotman was there, but I don't think she was a minister. I can't remember who else was there. I think there were 4 in all.
Right.
I can't remember the names of the other 2 at this point in time.
Good. So let's press on. At about, well, let me take you to the 5th of March 2020. Do you recall that date?
Yes, the early mornings of that date, yes.
At about 1:20 that morning, did anything occur?
Yes, Mr. Lowenfield finally arrived with 2 members of his staff, and he says that these 2 gentlemen will continue with the verification process from here on in.
Sure. Now, the 2 members of staff who came in with Mr. Lowenfield, had you seen either of them before?
No, I had not seen either of the 2 before.
And do you know the names of either of them?
I know the names of only one.
And what is the name that you know?
Mr. Enrique Levan.
I'm not sure when you gave your statement. I would invite you to go to paragraph 12 of the statement. Again, keep it short paragraph.
Yes, sir.
You did see one?
No, sir. I didn't see the guy, but what was happening was that while we were all waiting, members of other political parties had seen him in a room.
No, no, you can't speak for other people.
Well,
This is your statement.
Yeah.
This is what you say. One of these men, this is a very categorical statement.
Yes, sir.
One of these men had been in a room outside of the tabulation room. He had been there all along, so I was surprised. Those are your words. You are relating in your statement what you saw. Isn't that so?
maybe I should have said that this was what I was told.
I'm not dealing with what
Okay.
you maybe should have said. I'm dealing with what you did say. So which is correct? You did not see him or you saw him?
I did not see him in another room until later, not before this.
So there is a mistake in your statement.
At this point, yes.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
So I just want to remind you, if while testifying you can't remember anything, you are entitled to ask to be refreshed from your statement. All right?
Thank you.
So we had got to the point where you said that the CEO had returned with 2 male members of staff, and you gave the name of one as Mr. Enrique Levan. What happened then?
The two gentlemen started the verification process, and within a very short period of time, we realized that numerous mistakes were being made.
Okay. So I want you to tell me, first of all, when you say the verification process, what process were they using at that time?
They were using the same process that the ladies before were doing. The statements of poll, and they were reading from that, but they were getting a lot of mistakes which didn't correspond with what we had.
So when you say a lot of mistakes, they're wrong, the numbers that they were calling didn't correspond to what
Exactly, yes.
agents had.
Yes.
And agents protested and drew to their.
Yes.
So you said they were following the same procedure that the 2 women had adopted earlier in the process.
Yes, sir.
That is announcing the numbers from statements of vote.
That's what I seem to recall, yes.
So these 2 men were continuing the process using statements of vote,
At this point in time, yes.
but were announcing incorrect numbers.
Yes, sir.
One moment. And you say the numbers were incorrect because of what?
Because it didn't correspond with what the counting agents had,
Party
the
representative,
party representatives, yes.
who also had statements of vote.
Yes.
Mr. Yearwood, the statements of school and party agents had, were they photocopies of the statements of school that the officials had? Like, how did the party agents come by their copies of statements?
Okay. At the end of poll, at the polling station, at the end of the count, every person within that polling station is given a statement of poll. Therefore,
Every party agent, not every person, every party agent. Policemen who are there.
well, I should say every person except the policeman, because all the party agents and whoever else is there is given a statement of poll, So all of the party agents present would have received a copy of that statement of poll.
The identical one, the officials.
Yes,
With signatures.
with
from
signatures.
all.
Everybody has to sign it.
So they're identical.
Yes, sir.
And when you say that Mr. Ejeniban and the other gentleman read out numbers that were inaccurate and party representatives protested and so on, did these gentlemen, Vivan and the other gentlemen, did they correct this supposed mistake?
No, sir.
They didn't.
They didn't.
Mr. Yearwood, the copies of the statements of polls which are given to party agents at the polling stations, are they referred to as original copies?
I don't know what they refer to, but I would assume that they are original copies
Yes,
because they're given to the agents by the presiding officer in the room.
sure. Now, you said that they were calling out numbers which were different from the numbers on the statements of polls which party agents had in their possession.
Yes.
What was the reaction of the party agents to this?
We got annoyed about it because earlier everything was going okay, and now we were suddenly getting large amounts of mistakes, and we were very upset about it.
Use this term mistakes. I want to be clear. Mr. Levan,
I think it's Levan.
He will take up an SOP. There will be a number on it, numerical number. And you're saying, and he calls that number, and you compare it with your SOP, there was a difference.
Yes, sir.
That is the mistake you speak about.
Yes, sir.
There was a difference in the numerical number he's calling and what you have.
Yes, sir.
And that was observed by other agents as well,
Yes, sir.
not just your.
Yes, sir.
So what did you all do? What was your response when a number was called that did not match yours?
I objected to it
When you
because
say you objected, what did you see? You say you objected.
we told him that those are not the numbers that we have.
Okay, those are not the numbers that I have. What was the response, if any, from him?
Basically, we were just ignored.
Ignored it.
Yeah, basically. And try to continue with their process.
Okay.
Just for clarification, the chairman asked you about incorrect numbers on the statement poll. I just want to get clearly from you, the numbers that you are referring to are the number of votes recorded for each political party on the statement of poll, or the number identifying the statements of poll?
The numbers recorded per political party.
The votes?
The votes, yes.
Yes.
That's what that is.
Okay.
Yes?
Just one more question. The numbers being read out by Mr. Levan and the other gentleman did not correspond with numbers of votes that you and other party agents had. Were you able to say at that point whether the numbers that Mr. Levan and the other gentleman were reading out, that the numbers on those statements there any attempt by Mr. Levan to say, but see on my statement of role, this is the input that we have?
No, sir. We weren't allowed to see what they were calling from.
So you don't know whether there was an actual difference in numbers on the statement?
I wouldn't know that,
Or
sir.
whether they were just being read differently?
I wouldn't know that.
Now, you have just explained to Commissioner Smith that you could not see the actual document that was being read out from by Mr. Levan and the other GCOM employee. Well, was there any facility at the time in that room for their statement of poll to be put up on a screen or something like that for all to see?
At that time, no.
Did anybody ask to see what Mr. Levan had in his hand?
I actually do not recall that being done.
Sure. Now, you said there were objections by people, including yourself. Sorry.
In actual fact, Mr. Yearwood, you don't even know if he was calling out numbers from the statement. Oh. That stands to reason because you couldn't see, but
We saw he had a document in his hand
he had a piece of paper or something.
that appeared to be a statement of poll. Whether he had a document in front of that, I have no idea. But what we do know is that the numbers that were being called out were not the numbers reflected with what we had.
And do you know whether the statements of poll in the possession of various party agents were the same?
Yes, they were, because a lot of us had taken photographs of the statements of polls which were posted outside of the election polling stations, and we had shared that within our groups to be able to verify as well.
Sorry, I'm really sorry, but this is important. Just to be clear, when the numbers were being read out and didn't correspond to what other party agents had, you referred to me saying it didn't correspond to what we had. So I just wish to be clear. Were there any party agents or representatives who agreed with what Mr. Levan was calling out and said, yes, this is the number I have? Do you recall any such instance?
No, sir. I don't recall anyone saying that.
Now, perhaps you could give us a little idea of the layout of the room. At the time when Mr. Levan was calling out the numbers, about how far away from him were you?
It was a small room. Let us assume Mr. Levan is this back wall. We would have been maybe by this presidential inquiry sign here. So the distance is not that much. It was pretty close. It was very congested. There was a glass wall behind us, immediately behind us. We were there, and he with the table was in front here. Let's say where you gentlemen are, and we were just by where this table here is. Basically.
Estimate the distance. You said he's here,
Yeah, let's.
and you're not.
Maybe between 15 to 20 feet. From him to the beginning of the party agents. Because there were multiple rows of party agents.
Yeah.
And was he facing you?
Yes, he was.
So, is it then that you were only able to see the back of the document that he was looking at?
Yes.
So let's move on. You said that there was an uproar, and can you tell us what, if anything, occurred? Did the process continue?
I think the process continued for 4 to 5 statements of poll, and then we started the objections, and it basically came to a halt at that point.
Now let's deal with this. You said that there was an uproar, and then they continued for a short period of time, for about 5 statements of polls. Well, what was happening for those 5 statements of polls? Was it the same kind of thing that you have just described to us?
Yes, every statement of poll Mr. Levan was attempting to verify had mistakes and objections on it that
Yes.
we objected to.
Yes. So you use the word mistakes, but is it, from what you have described to us, that you are saying that he was calling numbers which were different from the numbers on the statements of polls which party agents had been given?
Yes.
So after these 5 statements of polls were called and the same issue arose again, what occurred?
We all,
Around 2 in the morning, did something happen?
pardon?
At around 2 a.m., did something happen?
We became so what's the word, vociferous, loud. We were so upset, we were all tired, and we felt that wool was being pulled over our eyes, so we became very ferocious in our objections. They eventually stopped and left the room.
Okay, so when Mr. Levan left the room, what did you observe?
We saw him take the flash drive out of the,
Sorry.
You continue to speak about we saw him.
well, I saw him.
Yes, I would prefer that.
Okay,
Because
my
it's
apologies, sir. I saw him take the flash drive from the laptop that was on the desk, that was recording all of the information that he called out onto a big screen where the other gentleman was recording all the numbers that were called out. That flash drive was taken with Mr. Levan when they left the room.
You mean taken by Mr. Levan?
Yes, ma'am.
May I
Sure.
ask you some clarification? You just mentioned the screen. The screen? The screen?
It's one of these pull-ups, these pull-up screens, mobile pull-up screens.
So there was a screen there.
Yes, but it was being used that when Mr. Levan called out the numbers, the second person was entering it into a computer, which was then recorded onto a screen for all of us to see the numbers being recorded.
So it was those numbers.
And when the number came up on the screen, it was then that number did not correspond with your number.
Yes, sir. First, it didn't correspond when they called it out,
When he called it out,
and then it
and
didn't
secondly,
correspond.
when it came up on the screen,
Screen. Yes, sir.
it was not in tandem with what you had.
Correct, sir.
This flash drive was in a computer that Ivan was using.
Not Mr. Levan, but the other gentleman that was recording for him.
That's the flash drive.
Yes.
So this, what was being projected on the screen
As they were supposed to be verified, yes. It's a multiple purpose. First they call it out to verify it. Then they put it on the screen and there's a running total for each political party which tabulates it.
And at the end of that tabulation, if everything is accurate and everybody agrees, that constitutes the result for that.
If we all agree, yes.
Yes, if you will, that would be what constitutes the result.
Basically, yes.
That region.
Yes.
So, Mr. Yearwood, in this process of the announcement from what could have been a statement of poll by Mr. Livan, you said there were objections by party agents that, look, those are not what we have in our statements of poll. And he did not accommodate, did not entertain, made no response. You said he just simply ignored those objections?
Yes, sir.
Did he, for instance, make a note?
No,
Maybe
sir.
he said nothing, but maybe he made a note of your
I don't recall seeing him writing anything, so.
Yes, you did.
Please.
Now, when you all brought your concerns to Mr. Levan's attention, when he called out numbers which were different from the numbers on your statements of polls, did Mr. Levan ask any of the agents there to have a look at the statements of polls which they had?
No.
And when the numbers were input by the other employee and came up on the screen, were those numbers the numbers called by Mr. Levan, or were they the numbers on the statements of polls which you had?
They were the numbers called by Mr. Levan.
Did the other employee, inputting the information, ask any of the agents there, the party agents there, to have a look at their statements of polls before he input those numbers?
No.
Right, so Mr. Levan has left the room and he has removed the flash drive from the desk. What became of the other employee?
They both left.
At about 2:10 that morning, did you get certain information?
Yes.
All right. Wait, let us just go to what you did. When you got that information, did you go anywhere?
Yes, I left the verification room and went outside of the glass room we were in, into a side room.
And did anyone accompany you?
Most of the party agents, yes.
Now, how did you get into that side room?
Well, we all just rushed in there.
You got in through the door to the room?
Yes, yes, the
And-
door was open.
Right. And when you got into that room, did you see anyone in that room?
Yes, there were 3 people in the room. Mr. Levan was sitting at a desk with a laptop in front of him. There was a young lady lying on a mattress on the floor, and there was another lady standing in a corner with some documents in her hand, which she then rested on top of a filing cabinet.
Now, when you talk about there were other people in the room, are you talking about GCOM employees?
There were only those 3 GCOM employees, but most of the party agents went into the room at that time.
Sure. What did Mr. Levan at that time appear to be doing?
He was sitting at the computer and he appeared to have been working on some document on the laptop.
And did you see the flash drive that had been taken from the other room?
Yes.
And how do you know it was the same flash drive?
I don't know that it was the same flash drive, but the assumption was that it was the same flash drive.
Sure. Do you know if there had been a laptop in that other room before Mr. Levan entered?
No, I don't know.
Did you or had you observed whether the laptop from the tabulation room had been removed before you went into the other room?
I had not seen that laptop being removed.
Thank you. So when you all saw Mr. Levan appearing to work on a laptop computer with a flash drive, what did you do?
He was challenged about it.
By whom?
By members of the political parties, the counting agents.
Including yourself?
Yes.
But when you say he was challenged about it, what did you say to him, if anything?
I asked him what was he doing with the flash drive, what was he doing working on a computer, having told us in the tabulation room that he was tired and that he couldn't work any longer. So they were calling it off until 9 in the morning.
What, if any, was his response?
He gave little or no response to our questions or anything.
Well, what was the little response that he gave?
How should I put it? A look on his face, a disparaging look. Why are you guys here trying to question me? Just
He didn't say that.
he didn't say that. I'm just, the look on his face gives that,
He was dismissive by
yeah,
his appearance.
basically yes,
That's what you want.
yeah.
Now, sir, with the Commissioner's leave, I'm going to ask for you to have a look at your statement, and in particular paragraph 16. Right. Now, having refreshed your memory from paragraph 16, I want to ask you this. You have just described to the Commission what you perceived about the look on Mr. Levan's face and so on. Did Mr. Levan say anything?
He was being accused of working on the, how to put it, on the document with the statements that was recording the statements of poll.
Who accused him?
Some party counting agent. Who exactly, I can't remember.
And did you hear him say anything to that?
He just denied that he was doing anything wrong.
Okay. Can you remember the words that Mr. Levan
No,
used?
I can't remember the exact words used.
Did anyone accuse him of moving the laptop from the tabulation room?
Yes, he was also accused of somewhere at the time of removing the actual laptop used in the tabulation room and having that on his desk in the side room at the time, yes.
And can you now recall who had made that accusation?
No, I wouldn't be able to tell you who made that accusation.
All right. So after this incident with the flash drive and the laptop occurred, did you see any police officers at Ashman's building?
During the whole process, there were police officers all around, but at this particular incident, after it got rowdy, because there were maybe 20 of us in the room, in this small room, congested, all shouting, making noise at the said time, Commander Thomas arrived in.
Had you known Commander Thomas before?
No, I have never met him before.
And when you say Commander Thomas, you mean Police Commander Thomas?
Yes,
How was he dressed?
in uniform.
And when you say he arrived in, where exactly are you talking about?
He came into the room we were in with Mr. Levan sitting at the desk.
And what was Mr. Levan's reaction when the police entered the room?
He put his head down on the desk, folded his arms and tucked his head underneath.
Did the police speak to Mr. Levan?
Yes, and he spoke to all of us about, he was trying to find out what was going on and what the incident was.
Okay, well, when you say he spoke to all of us, to whom do you refer?
He spoke to
No. Who is the he you're talking about?
Mr. Commander Thomas.
Right. So, did the party agents, including yourself, then explain what you thought had happened to Commander Thomas?
Yes, we did.
And what, if anything, did Commander Thomas say?
Well, he was saying that if it became a police investigation and if the police laid hands on the flash drive, nothing further could be done until that investigation was complete, until the police investigation was complete. And that would delay the counting and tabulation process for what we were doing at the time.
At that point in time, did you see the CEO, Mr. Lowenfield?
Yes, Mr. Lowenfield had arrived by then, and he was in the room with us when Mr. Thomas made that statement.
So the police set out their position and they did so in the presence of the CEO. What then occurred?
After much back and forth discussion with everybody trying to give their opinion, Mr. Lowenfield suggested that he will take the flash drive and put it back into the computer out in the tabulation room to see what was going on the flash drive.
And having said that, did he go to the tabulation room?
Yes, he did, and we all followed him.
What became of Mr. Levan at this time?
He was also with us in the tabulation room with Mr. Lowenfield at the head table.
And can you recall whether any other GCOM employees were with Mr. Levan at that time?
I think the other gentleman that was helping Mr. Levan earlier, he was also there.
Now, when you returned to the tabulation room, can you tell us, well, how did you all arrange yourselves?
We basically sat in the same seats we were sitting before, with Mr. Levan and Mr. Lowenfield at the head table up front there with the laptops and the laptop and the flash drive.
Thank you. This is convenient.
I should have a break for 20 minutes.
Thank you.